Do the announcement, dude. Got to do the announcement.
Attention convention attendees, now appearing live in the DKE booth here at DKECON, Billions McMillions!
Wow. Yeah, flicked. Skill says, Billions flexing his McMillions with that AT there. Yeah, totally. Well, now that I have, just so you know,
Billions versus sponsored by Ciroc.
for the record, Bill offered to sell that to me, and I didn't have a place to put it. And then now that I have a warehouse to put it, he no longer for sale. He's just like, I kind of like it. And just so you know, everyone who's looking at it, that's his living room.
It's literally a metaphorical elephant in the room. Anyway, hey, so what's happening, man? I thank you for having me. I feel very honored. I feel like I'm like a closer. You know, I'm like Mariano Rivera or Goose Gossage or something. I'm like closing it here at the end.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know. It just decided. We just decided to do San Diego here in the warehouse over 5 days. I think we're on hour 30, no, hour 41 right now.
It's
so
it's admirable what you're doing, Dov. I was doing interviews earlier in the year, like 5 a week, and it does take a lot, you know. So I'll try to make it as easy for you as possible.
Oh yeah.
Hey, how are you doing?
This will be the only thing you've ever made easy for me.
No, zing! Can we get the bodega air horn, please?
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
Oh Bill.
Dov, how has the virtual Comic-Con experience been? I have to admit, I kind of let it slip a little bit. I wanted to watch some of it, but I didn't know exactly where to do that. Was everybody doing their own individual web presence, or was there one portal for like Comic-Con?
San Diego Comic-Con, if you go there, has a virtual room exhibit hall where you can kind of wander around, and they had us basically upload a description of our company, a website, and some products. I don't know how much traffic we got from that. You know, I'm going to say virtually none. If there's a lot of companies just didn't bother to do anything, because why spend the money if they didn't have to? Right. And you know, there's some of the companies that actually, Hasbro in particular. See, Chris says it wasn't very user friendly. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do. I mean, they did panels and they had stuff, but I didn't. You know, I'm doing this, so I didn't have time. I keep asking people what they did, you know, over in the San Diego, and you know, the big answer is like, you know, a big zero. Like no one did anything.
I'm here in San Diego, of course. I got a very expensive hotel down next to the center. I brought my own hats. I mean, I was ready. You know, I've been at. Early February before the pandemic really became a problem. So it's been a pretty expensive tenure for me, but.
I did see on Instagram that Chris Gore was actually in the gas lamp.
Oh like, yeah.
Hanging around. Like, I don't know if he just thought that would be funny.
Funny, like what's his name from Mythbusters, like dressed up as like a baby Yoda or anything like that? Don't people usually do that? Like, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it! You wouldn't believe it! It was Scarlett Johansson was dressed up as Harley Quinn, which is crazy because that's a different you know, total different licensing area. But you know what I mean? When people do that kind of crazy stuff, they kind of show up and like. Costumes and stuff, like you were just talking to Shia LaBeouf and you didn't even know it or something, and none of that's happening this year, right? Nothing.
Yeah, not really.
Anyway,
a couple comments here. That Matt said, you keep one of each unit. pieces you sell, mostly, not 100%. And Skill says, I've been watching SDCC panels at night after decon streams, some really good stuff. I'm sure, like, if you're interested in the subject matter, but I don't normally don't go to panels when I'm in San Diego, because I'm of the age and patience that I don't want to see a trailer for a movie before I see it. I don't want to be hyped. I just want to go see it when I see it, and I'm usually pretty patient, and I don't want to hear people talk about anything at all and change my perspective.
Enough interest in your quiver, right? You can just chill and wait for the real thing to come out and happen. What I thought was really cool, and what I think they're gonna, I mean, I was listening to a big thing on NPR earlier in the week about it, and they were saying that this is probably going to introduce some concepts that will become permanent fixtures of the con scene. Like, I think the availability of the panels to people is pretty amazing, because if you've ever been to like a big festival show or something, like a big, I went to a couple in England, like rave type things, and it's like the Prodigy is playing at 10 p.m. and Richie Hawtin is playing at 11, and it's like literally 400 yards apart with like 60,000 people in between. There's no way you can really see both. And so I think the same thing happens at Comic-Con, where it's like Dead and Game of Thrones, and people are waiting all night for the Game of Thrones panel. And yeah, it's a lot of fun when you're there in the hall and you're seeing those people come out on stage. But it's also just nice that you get to see it, that you would be able to see it. And so, to your comment that someone had said they've been watching them that night, that's pretty awesome. Of course, all of that was pre-recorded, right? Like, nobody was really there.
Not in San Diego, but I don't know where they are. I mean, people could be doing live stuff, like the actor could be at home, but
some Archer or something is going to show up in the middle of the tent. Well, they might. That's a bad example. Let's say like
I don't know. The whole idea of Hall H in San Diego just makes me really mad, because the way the rules are, people have to wait to get in, sometimes 24 hours. I know people have waited 8 or 12 hours to get into like a Game of Thrones panel and then didn't get in. And I just don't.
Dub, I've seen people out there at like 6 p.m. for like a 1 p.m. thing the next day.
I know, it's terrible. And sometimes they don't get in, because once you're in the room, you can stay in the room. You can get a pass to leave or go to the bathroom, and then you could eat the food that's there. I don't know. I think it's just incredibly rude, and as someone who's in the hall, trying to sell stuff, having people wait in line for 2 days to spend a whole day and not want to leave because, well, the thing I really want to see is at 5 o'clock tonight, and I got in for the thing I want to see at 10. So I'm just going to spend the next 7 hours here and prevent someone else who really wants to see it.
They can't move, and there's no consideration for. Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering if they could do like something where it's like maybe it'd be like a rotating thing where people are just walking through, passing through.
They've just decided, like, once you're in the room, you can stay, and then, I don't know. The baseball stadium is right across the street, and they're claiming that I've heard this from someone, that they're afraid that people will sit in the sun and get heat stroke, because they could put a big stage out there. You could fit 20,000 people could go and sit there. They could even sell, like stadium only tickets, right? There's so many people that want to go to San Diego who either can't afford it or can't get in, but some people just want to go to the panels. And how many people fit into the stadium down there? 24, 30,000?
Have a rotating on the, like, whatever giant screen they have down there. Not a bad idea. Well, anyway, but enough about that. Whatever. We all know it's weird. Pandemic.
We're here to talk about you.
We don't have to talk about me, man. I didn't mean to pivot on that.
Let's actually talk about the AT-AT that's behind you.
Yes.
What year was that?
Oh, are we talking about the entire concept? Or are we talking about
what time was it first released by Span of Sunset? The first vinyl toy.
Well, I mean,
2005?
I think it was 2003, 2004.
2003, 2004. So you are the first, at least that I can tell, the first designer toy to include a Star Wars pop culture reference that I can think of.
I appreciate you saying that. I know that if it wasn't the first, it was definitely like probably like the
What else was there?
I don't know, but I'm just saying I don't like to say stuff like that because I'm
I mean,
using
Nathan Cabrera did his Spandroid right about the same time,
it's kind of
right?
like I claiming I invented the fish taco or something. You know, it's like I think
No, I mean, as far as like the mashup goes,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah, I hear you. It
Trying to mash up two concepts and putting it out, which is something that everyone does. We have a lot of mashups here on the table in the booth.
I know
But we're talking
much.
about like 2003, 2004 for not a handmade piece, right? We're talking about a production piece, a vinyl toy.
Right.
I remember the looks on people's faces when they saw that piece for the first time, and they kind of saw God. They're like, whoa, like they didn't know what they were seeing because it being in vinyl, it kind of had that plastic sheen to it.
Yeah,
It was clearly not hand painted or handmade, like, and
yeah.
it
There were a
and like
bunch of behind the counter type thing. You know?
and like the shoe culture was not what it is today,
I mean,
right?
neither. I'm very flattered you bring that up and say this to me because it's really nice. And I don't sit there and stew and think like, God damn it, I made all this stuff.
No, but if you think about it, the shoe culture was not there, and then the Star Wars culture at the time is like very literal, and y-
Yeah.
you did something way ahead of your time, man. Like if that came out today, it would still be relevant and it would sell thousands of pieces,
Wow.
right?
Well, maybe I missed but yeah, what had happened is I had done an illustration and I was approached by Span of Sunset and they said, I think we can make a toy out of this. And I said, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. And we went through the arduous process of, creating a physical version of a two-dimensional drawing, which can be really easy sometimes. And other times it's like, well, I don't know. It wouldn't actually stand up, or what does the back look like? Or, you go through all of those questions. And that's why I mean, somebody like Causes Toys with Metacom, they are such smooth and easy transitions to physical items. And I don't mean it was easy to get to them. I mean, it's easy for us to just, we don't even think about that, oh, that's a physical version of this painting. They're just done so well. It's really kind of an art form who can make that happen. There's a lot of concepts that people try to force into 3 dimensions that don't always work, and other times they do. And this one happened to work out. It took a little bit of time. We decided to put a little character into it. I think that's one thing I see with people's toys sometimes is they just look like stiff corpse versions of the concept. Like they're just standing there staring straight forward. They don't even make them look sideways or anything. Put a little contrapposta in it. You know what I mean? And so we ended up doing that, putting the thing out, and it was kind of mind-blowing for people that were into the scene. They were kind of like, I didn't know that there were other people that were also into sneakers and hip hop and Star Wars in a weird way. Like some people, they saw it as kind of, I mean, you kind of acted, you very kindly said it was like they saw God. I would say more maybe they saw a path, they were shown a path of what's possible maybe. And I think a lot of people, in the same way that it seems like, Morgan and this bootleg Boba Fett concept, the Suck Lord created this like path for people to just, it's like a freeway running right through the middle of culture land. Is this there's these little byways, and one of them is let's make a Boba Fett, um, you know, Star Wars carded bootleg. And so in a way, a lot of these things become very common, and it's hard to remember the context of early 2000s. What the fuck is that? Like, what is that thing? What is that? I don't get it. It's like it's like a sneaker, and it's also like Walker, And now I think it's pretty common to mix those things. It's like you,
But also what was special about it, and something that even people have trouble doing today, is vinyl just the medium of vinyl works well for like organic shapes. Because when you pull it out of the mold, you have, I don't know, 10-20% of like, going one way or the other.
Yeah,
And
it's soft
you guys,
material, comes out of the mold kind of warm, and it's very malleable, right? This is what we're saying. And
decided to do a geometrical shape, like engineering project out of vinyl. Like, what the fuck?
yeah, well, I still get messages about people saying my AT-AT is falling over. What can I do? And you have
You
to,
get a hair dryer and you heat it
for
up a
those of
little
you
bit
that
and
are
you bend it.
wondering- for those of you that are wondering, sometimes perhaps you're having a little bit of a problem with the ankle area here, where the vinyl is actually collapsing inward. I would suggest you use a little bit of hot water, like like not boiling, but just hot, warm water, and kind of manage to, try to get it back in shape, hold it a while so it restores a bit of that memory that it has in it inherently. I would say you let it cool off, sitting on its back, and then maybe it'll stand up straight for another few months, and then you've got to do it again.
And so what Janky was saying here in the warehouse was that this is like a grail piece for a lot of people.
And I
And I
still
don't,
get a few messages a month, a message or two every month about someone just kind of taking a shot in the dark, like shooting for the moon. Like, do you have one of those that I can buy?
I mean, if they show
Unfortunately,
up on eBay, they're like $500 or $1,000, right?
I mean, of course, that's depending on, how that the aftermarket is always contingent upon who will pay that much, right? So people might price them at that. I don't know. I'm downplaying the whole thing. It is true.
Yeah, you're being like really like, yeah.
Well,
Don't be
because
a dick, Bill.
but I don't want to sound like a dick talking about my own
Yeah.
toy.
All right, I'll just say it. Like that shit's expensive.
It is expensive, and I've seen it for over $1,100 at one point. And
There we go.
you know, and then I've seen it. I've seen people super stoked that they got it for like 580 or something.
Right.
Or
Skill says there's one on eBay now for 900. Yeah, starting bid. Yeah,
oh,
exactly. So then recently you did a follow-up with Monkey King
I
with the
did.
Star Destroyer. And
I
look
did.
at you, of course you have one.
Patrick Lamb approached
Look
me.
at that.
Patrick, yeah. Hey, Dub. I came prepared, right?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So, yeah, actually, right before this chat, I was like, maybe I should go bring those toys in case we talk about them. Yeah, Patrick from Monkey King was a fan of the AT-AT. I mean, I think it's just one of those things where I'm kind of like, it's like JD Salinger or something. It's like I made this one toy that's super rad, right? And then everyone's just like, "Oh my God, you made that one toy. That was so cool. What are you up to now?" And it's, and so Patrick was like, "Wow." Patrick from Monkey King was like, "That's one of my favorites. He has one. It's kind of yellowed, and I think the gun is broken off, that kind of thing." And he said, maybe we can do something, and I think he was kind of implying like maybe we can make AT-AT 2 or something, and I said, hey, the AT-AT was based on a concept of me combining a sneaker with this ship. This was before the AT-AT concept, and so it's a little like a prequel, and as prequels are generally regarded, it's probably not as awesome as the original, but whatever, it's it's super. Wow. I'm really into it. It's
so you actually conceptualized that before the AT-AT.
Yes, this is a little blown out, and I can't get the exposure to work with here, unfortunately.
It's because of your windows in the back.
I can stop down my windows just a little bit. What about that?
And for those of you watching who are not familiar, it's an AT-AT, AD-AT, AD meaning Adidas shoe.
It's short for a certain company that might start with it's Adidas.
And who you would think were going to be very, litigious and like, oh my God, what are you doing? And you come to find out there's a lot of Adidas employees that actually have one, like on their desks.
Adidas, that there were 2 people in the design department with it on their desk. And actually, there's a pretty famous photo of forgive me, his name is eluding me right now. I can only think of Phil Knight, but the current Nike CEO is a big toy fan as well, and
Is
his
that
whole office is filled with
Mark Parker?
Mark Parker's
Mark
office
Parker. Yeah.
is filled with a huge amount of toys, and there's a photo of Mark Parker's office where hidden in the background like this kind of, so it can't really be seen at the office is the AT-AT. He has the AT-AT in his Nike office. Yeah, so I think it connected really well. I think it resounded well with fans of sneakers, and I think a lot of people just between the ages of like 30 and 50 are just like, Star Wars has a really magical place in their hearts and minds, and they're just kind of like, Star Wars, wow, especially The Empire Strikes Back. If you're between like 40 and 50, it's like the best experience ever is when you got to go see the Hoth scenes in the movie theater. So I just kind of cherry picked that, but this was a concept early on for a T-shirt that I'd made, and it was a pair of shirts. One shirt was called Old School, and that was this like a shell toe Star Destroyer. And then there was another one, which I don't know, maybe I've been talking with Patrick, I don't know. It's actually like it says New School, and it's an Air Max 95, which is my other favorite shoe, which you might recall I made a Shuttle Max.
I don't remember that at all.
No, I know. This one is often poo-pooed by the toy community because I made it with Kid Robot, which at the time.
I have all three versions. Okay.
Oh, do you? Nice. I wish I hadn't done that. I got to tell you, big argument for not doing the colorway is that this is the only one people want, the original, the lime and the gray. And I made like a Hong Kong one, and I made another one, and I'm just like, the only one people really want is the lime green.
Right, but they all sold out.
They did. It was a nice piece. The funny thing is that Kid Robot at the time was telling me like, you know what? It sat for a while. People didn't really know what to make of it.
I remember. It found its audience.
It did. Well, that's what happens. Kid Robot introduced their clothing line, and it brought in a bunch of like streetwear kids that thought maybe they might be finding the next Bathing Ape or something, right? So for 6 months, like Kid Robot had a pretty hot clothing line. And the people at Kid Robot said like, it's like the people that were coming in for the clothes got it right away. And it sold out immediately. This couple of weeks we'd introduced our clothing line. It was like, that made sense to people, I actually sent one of those to Mark Parker with a little note saying like, this one you can officially display if you want, so.
So there's another toy that I wish would get made, and it was in a book where you had a small little chapter in that. What was that little book called? It was that little gray book, and it was called like Volume 3, and it was a joke that had never been a Volume 1 or 2.
Oh, is it the little brownish book?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, what was that called?
You want me to get
of course you do. Yes, please.
It's funny you mentioned this because I was going through a bookstore that was going out of business in Santa Monica, and on their clearance table of art books, they had like 5 of them.
You should have bought. Did you buy them all?
I bought 4 of them. Yes.
Okay, because I've seen a bookseller recently like charging like $50 for them.
Really?
Great book. Everyone should have.
Well, that's kind of good to know.
All right. So in that book, right? So that's Volume 3, correct?
That's correct. Free Activation Series, Volume 3, and it's a kind of a collection of art from like Reese, Espo, Rostar, Space Invader, Delta, Zebs. Shepard Fairey does an intro. I'm included in there. I was very flattered to be in this book with such great company.
And am I correct that there is no Volume 1 or 2? That was just a joke?
I think Volume 3 is pretty much. It's just kind of a weird little thing to call it.
All right, so you have another piece in there where you have the 4 Stormtrooper helmets.
Section. How about that? It just kind of opens right to it. How weird is that? I don't know.
Can you show the 4 Stormtroopers? Oh, it has your Beastie Boys album covers. Yes, of course.
Artwork that I've done for Beastie Boys, which I did many years ago.
Okay, stop showing off. Go to the one page, please.
Here's the.
Yes, we know. I want to do the thing that I'm talking about, not the thing that you want to show. That's it. I
Yeah,
want that toy.
I know. That would
And
be
that would,
wonderful to do some sort of like, I think you and
that,
I were talking about that, like those mini NFL helmets.
yeah, they would just need, but those would have to be licensed. Like, KISS people are just
Kiss is
too,
pretty,
they're tough.
particularly
And,
was pretty gnarly with that. A
but
friend of
that,
mine through Comic Con one year wearing the shirt, and Gene Simmons was kind of talking to somebody, like, and he kind of saw my friend walking by, and he was like, "I need to talk to you about that shirt." Conversation, and of course, my friend was just like, "Out of here! I don't want to talk to Gene Simmons. Get your weird slathering tongue away from me, you weirdo." Anyway,
So
that one's probably not going to happen, but you know,
a boy can dream.
that was actually kind of one of the earlier concepts of Mr. Litigious. Someone says that, Mr. Litigious rather. That was one of the first combinations at the time. I was calling them like kind of a cross-pollination type idea, and I think the term mashup became very popular, and so that's where we're at now. But
And and as far as I can tell, like I can't really see any very many credible what we're going to call mashups before that. I remember like when I was doing the Vader project,
yeah,
I went and I had a meeting with Lucasfilm because I don't know, I was what was I? Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, or stupid, or
I
ignorant, or whatever. So I went there, went to talk to the license.
we thought it would be really simple to just slay the dragon in Act One. You're like,
Well,
yeah,
they wanted to talk to me after the Vader project, and it got a little messy because they said, "Well, it's fine that you're doing these at the Star Wars shows, but when you want to do it, uh, you want to take it outside of that, you need to talk to this person." Well, I
uh,
tried talking to that person. She never emailed me back, so I went and like booked a show at the Warhol Museum. Anyway, the show ended up happening. I had to embarrass Lucasfilm to get it done. They were not very nice. They really wanted to assert control over everything and own it all without paying anyone anything. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. It was a bad experience,
Right.
and I just felt it was very anti-artist. But in that meeting, this was 2008. I proceeded to tell them, which they didn't really want to hear, that their brand was dying. That they just had three shitty movies. There was not a piece of clothing that
yeah.
a Star Wars piece of clothing that I or anyone I knew would ever wear.
Yeah.
That they were making stuff.
I'm not gonna wear
Oh,
pod
oh,
racing sweatshirts.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm not going to wear a pod racing sweatshirt. Okay,
Yeah.
guys.
And I said that they have no vision in their licensing department, and like, can I help? Can I help put artists together with Star Wars and make product or design product that your licensees you know, can pursue? And they're
Probably
at it.
a little more tactful than that.
I was very tactful. I didn't say it
Okay.
as nasty as that. I was
I'm giving
very,
you guys the subtext. Okay, yeah.
yeah, I was super polite. And basically they told me, I mean, very bluntly, like, we don't pay consultants.
Hmm.
And really it's up to the licensee to come up with the thing and show it
Right.
to them, and they'll approve it or they won't, but we'll give you a license if you want, if you want to give us a $20,000 down payment. And
Right.
I thought about it, and I called them, and then I was like, okay, thought about it, I want to do it, I want a license. And then they never responded.
And they're
And
like,
then
"We're really going to do it." Yeah.
and then I spoke to some other licensees, and they basically said that, yeah, they'll never tell you no, they'll just stop responding to you because they're afraid of like pissing you off in case you're like in the future they're going to work with you. So if you don't hear anything, just assume that's a no. If it was a yes, they'd get back in touch with you. I'm like,
Right.
but you offered me a license like that day, And then I waited like 2 weeks to think about it, and then I called you, and then so what that just makes me think it was a bunch of BS to begin with. But you know, really, it was a complete lack of vision. And you know, for a company that had nothing else that they were selling at the time, you know, they had finished these 3 movies, they had no more movies to do before the animated series. Like, they just made all their money from licensing. That's where most of the money came from.
Right.
And it just, to not have someone there, like at least at Disney, there's someone there with a vision. You know, they bring in creative people to come up with ideas that you can actually make stuff that people want that will help the brand, right? That having products in the right stores that look cool, having an AT-AT on the shelf in a store, right? Doing a collaboration with Adidas, which eventually I think, didn't Adidas get a license, or someone got a license? And,
Adidas has done several collaborations.
yeah.
Collaborations. I have a really cool pair of Hoth Stan Smiths. You know, they're like
Were they?
Wampa Stan Smiths. They're furry. You know,
They're furry, right? The fur's like coming out the side. Yeah, someone kind of figured out.
I will say though, it's like the world decided that sort of like what I call Star Wars on Earth, like the existence of Star Wars in human culture, not the lore of Star Wars within itself. Like you know, like I want to know the origin story of General Veers. You know, I'm just saying, like the idea that Star Wars is on Earth and somebody wants a T-shirt that says Star Wars. Like, you're not watching the Star Wars movies and somebody's wearing a Star Wars T-shirt, right? So that's outside of, I'm talking about Star Wars on Earth, like the making of Star Wars. It's my favorite part, the making of Star Wars, the costumes, the way, you know, things are painted and made to look like, you know, that's my favorite part. I don't really care about Admiral Thrawn or whatever the fuck. I mean, it's cool. It's cool. Yes, that little worm inhibits the Force. I like that idea. That's fun. I'm kind of more into the model making, you know, and like cool.
I'm just gonna go so far as just to say that they were terrible, and they continued to make something that I would never wear.
Yeah, but now I'm saying they've opened up to that idea that humans on Earth want to wear some fun ideas that are like, dude, I don't want to dress up like Darth Vader on a daily basis, but I would like to have a T-shirt that just shows Darth Vader, kind of like, you know, I don't know, you go to Disneyland now and it's like they have all of those like really low-hanging fruit T-shirts, like emotions of a stormtrooper, like angry, happy, you know, and it's just the same photo repeating, you know, like they like, are we really, that's your idea of cool? That's not that cool, you know what I mean? And then you have like really high-end cool, like, oh my goodness, wow, you went with you know, you made T-shirts with Undercover in Japan, and you went, you know, you did like a Bathing Ape collaboration, and then you have like these really awesome Adidas shoes that, you know, look like different, you know, like I don't know if you ever saw those like X-Wing pilot Adidas forums or whatever. They're like orange canvas. They look like the flight suits at the end of A New Hope, you know, like it's awesome. That's cool, you know. So you kind of do get a mishmash of it now. Like there's an understanding of it now, but they also have to still go with like the Walmart style. Like, you know.
And that's fine. I wasn't even talking about that. That stuff has to exist, and there's still a market for that. But really,
back in the days, I still have a shirt hanging in my closet. It's way too small. It's like, maybe I'll give it to my daughter, but it's a little orange shirt. It says Darth Vader lives. Do you remember that shirt? It's like a really weird shirt, like Darth Vader lives. And it, to me, conceptually, it's so far out. It's between Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. And all we have seen is Darth Vader just flying off into a star field. It looks like he's gained control of his ship. He stabilized his ship. But for all we know, we're like, how we, you know, earlier in the movie, Obi-Wan Kenobi has already stated like that ship is way too far out. You know, like how can it possibly be that this far out in outer space? You know, that fighter is too small for that. So imagining Darth Vader's fighter at the end of Star Wars flying into the distance, you're like, he might be dead. And then suddenly there's this shirt that says Darth Vader lives, and it's this weird, optimistic, like, you know, it's like, what is that? Darth Vader lives? Strange, strange shirt to me. And I still have it. And to me, that's like one of those outside the lines type shirts where it's like, yeah, man, maybe Darth Vader does live. You know what I mean? It's not an image of Chewie and Han. You know, it's a concept. Darth Vader lives, and so that sort of you want to capture that imagination of people, right? And that's what you're talking about, is that new, more innovative products need to exist. Unfortunately, some of these exciting ideas, like a Kiss concept combined with Stormtrooper concepts, it's like, okay, well, that's pretty exciting to look at. But to actually license that would be a total nightmare. We're going to have to let that pass. And I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
It's too grand of an idea to actually.
I mean, unfortunately, it's like if it came out today, it would still be cool and I'd still buy one and I want to have one. But if you had done it 20 years ago, it would have been so next level. Like it was, I mean, it was next level when you created just the concept, like. And so I also pitched them on an art show of mashups, and they just looked at me funny. They're like, what?
It must have been about 20 years ago. I had this conversation with the Suck Lord. Like, why have we not really been bothered for what we were doing? Again, I might be putting up a lightning rod by saying something like that, but I'm just saying, like, back then it was like, I don't know, we have not really been hit with it. It's part of it is that nothing we were making was really in grand enough numbers to qualify as a real problem. But at the same time, Morgan had some insight on it where he kind of felt that in a way, what we were doing with these weird ideas was kind of keeping the brand alive in the heads of people that were like over the it's what you were addressing. You're saying, like, you don't have anything cool out there right now, and
absolutely,
you break fans' hearts, but there's like a small rebellious contingent, like the Suck Lord and other people out there, making things that keep that vibrancy of imagination alive. Like, oh wow, it's Star Wars, but it's not only Star Wars. It's like, it's cool. They added some cool twist. Okay, I like it. And now it's become pretty much par of the course. It's like, here's a little children's book about Darth Vader with his daughter, Princess Leia, or here's Darth Vader like trimming a hedge, or here's Stormtrooper walking an AT-AT, and these are like officially available shirts or something. I don't know, maybe they're not, maybe I'm just making it up, but they haven't.
I mean there are, Frank Kozik was talking about that earlier today. It's just the acceptance of these companies. He was talking about the cease and desist that he would get and how he would end up calling him, the art director for Hanna-Barbera, and they would hit it off and he would turn that into a license. And how the art director of Hanna-Barbera liked it when Fred Flintstone was shooting up heroin on his poster, like, and he said, and I said, it's like a different time. Like, the companies are more lenient now, and maybe because the law is no longer on their side, and parody and fair use has become known as fair use more over the past 20, 30 years. But
it's just profitable. I think they can.
I think they see, as one Disney employee told me, they said that, I said, is this stuff okay? And she told me that, like, they recognize that this is a thing and that it exists. And they are actively looking to figure out when the time is right, how to co-opt it and turn it into something money-making. And, my example is like Andy Warhol with the Campbell soup can. He didn't license that, right? He just painted a Campbell soup can because he thought that was Americana, or whatever his reason was. Never got their permission. But now that he's dead and licensed products are coming out, if I call the Warhol Foundation and say, hey, like Frank did, saying, I want to make Dunnies, and they're like, that's great. You can put all of these images here on Dunnies, but if it's Campbell soup, that's a split license with Campbell's. You talk to this person here, here's their card, or here's their info, right? And you call up Campbell's, and then you get a joint license. So Campbell Soup today is making money, right? Just is getting free money.
Warhol, you know, it's like a kind of the archetype, you know, becomes the cliche, and the cliche becomes the archetype reverse, where suddenly you have a collection of Campbell's soup cans where they have treated the label like Warhol might have, you know, like alternating, you know, alternate color.
I had those, and then I found them in my warehouse, and they were in a bag, luckily, and one of them exploded, and it looked like a science experiment, and I had to throw them out. Man, I was so pissed. I had a whole set.
I'm thinking I should go open mine and
It's just eat the SpaghettiOs that are in there. But I think I mean, so what I tell Morgan is that they probably don't cause a stink because they know, right, that the gay empire image is an iconic image, right?
Yeah.
It's been around already for 15 years.
Yes.
It's not going anywhere. And one day, right, just one day, Disney now is going to make money off that image because
awesome.
that gay empire image is here to stay.
Yeah.
And they really can't do anything. You know, anyone who touches a pink stormtrooper is just going to reek of, like, you know, oh, what a ripoff. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
He's just been doing it for too long for them to say anything at this point. So I don't know. We'll see. So what's next for Bill McMullen before we go here?
Oh, wow. Well, of course, like everyone else, I've been kind of coping with pandemic living, you know, and, you know, just working on things, I guess. Wow. What is happening with me, man? I don't know. I mean, I was doing a series of interviews with artists. I've been slowly putting those on my Instagram stories, archived.
Mhm.
That's been really fun, speaking with a lot of different designers and artists. And I guess what's next for me in terms of, if you're watching this, you know, I've been speaking with a few people about maybe developing a few concept toy type things. I would love to kind of shake off the scales and just make a few more like resin things to kind of wind up my trilogy that you've been very nice to sell at your booth in the last, you know, various Comic-Cons in the past.
We're waiting.
Hey, I know. It's like, I'll do it next year. And then suddenly it's June again. You're like, oh, God.
Right.
Hey, I'm saying do it next year again. So, you know, maybe I'll get around to that. But I don't know, man, you know, just kind of trying to hone my skills in 3D sculpting, little ZBrush type thing, which I've been doing for a while, but I never got really serious about it. And now it's pretty much, it's kind of seeped into this world now, you know. It's like,
Nice.
well, I mean, just, I think everybody is kind of doing it now. Like, people are definitely doing that kind of thing. I think kit bashing was occurring on physical levels, and I started kind of finding 3D models from video games and stuff online and kind of mashing them together digitally and then outputting 3D wise, because it just seemed like the more practical way to do it. But I think it's pretty common now, and now I'm finding myself behind the curve. Like, I haven't really done it, and I haven't been doing it. So I'm trying to kind of focus on a few things in terms of skill sets, and one of them is improving my 3D sculpting for my own projects. But, you know, I mean, conceptually, I just trying to write some stuff, develop some ideas.
This is a horrible way to end an interview. I have another question for you.
Sorry, it's just not very fun, right? It's not very fun.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about something exciting. You actually own something that I really want. Not besides that AT-AT behind you, which you've already offered and sort of reneged in a way, but that's a separate issue.
I don't know, man. Don't want it. For sale.
So you had a party.
Oh yeah, right.
A birthday party.
I know what you're going to talk about. Unfortunately, I can't just whip that piece out and show it to you because it's in storage in New York. I know what you're talking about. I had a birthday party, and I heartily encourage everyone to rip off this idea. I had a birthday party where I invited people, and I'm fortunate enough to know a bunch of artists. And I said, hey, you know what? If you're going to bring me this party is a this is a self-portrait party. So make a self-portrait of yourself as a piece of art in your style. You know, that would be a wonderful gift. And so I was lucky enough to have, you know, I've got a really nice piece by our friend Charlie Becker, sculpted some stuff, some cool, a friend of mine made like a stuffed plushie of herself. And then of course, I think what you're talking about is that the Suck Lord brought me a bootleg figure, which he's on record as saying it is the first one he made. He was, at the time, he was working with our friend Ari, E5, and Charlie, like just developing this resin casting style for a big show that they were doing, that Ari was doing at this gallery store space in New York called A Life. And so they were all working, like figuring out all this stuff. And Morgan was like, you know, this is kind of, I want to make some figures. I want to make some bootleg figures. And so he made a self-portrait. It's like the Suck Lord, right? He carded it and taped it together. It's got like yellowed tape on it. Of course, it says, you know, you're an asshole on the back. But it was the first Suck Lord figure. That ill, yeah. So I have the very first Suck Lord figure.
You do. And,
Out of all,
and I have to make a follow-up statement, right? You have the figure, and I don't.
I realize that, Dove, there's something in your brain that it makes it very difficult to cope with things like that for you. I think you're going to drive yourself batty worrying about stuff like that. But maybe someday when I hit harder times than I'm hitting now.
Sorry for laughing.
No. If I hit real dire straits, my friend, I'll know where to go with that one.
All right, dude. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time here.
Oh,
I know I really enjoy it. All the people who are watching here, super appreciative of your time and sharing all the great stories.
I like we got this.
Thank you, Janky.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. And
really appreciate it. Everyone, let's give a hand.
A hand to Dove, who's really put in a lot of time this week.
And also to Ian and Janky here, who are, you know, the men behind the scenes who are making all this happen.
That's what's up. Get a more diverse squad next year. It's that type of year, you know what I'm saying? So let's do this in person next year, Dove. All right?
Okay.
All right, I like it.
I'll talk to you later. I love Bill McMullen.